immersive shooting. We picked the most difficult set ever. Smoke, mirrors in every direction. Love it. Welcome to Twilight.
You're listening to Another Bite of Twilight, a podcast where we look back on our obsession with the Twilight Saga and continue to freak out 10 years later.
Hi guys,
Hello.
happy Twilight Tuesday.
How have you been?
How have I been?
How have our listeners been? And how have you been, Mel?
Yeah, I've been good. So if you guys follow us online or have been listening to our recent podcast, we just went to the Forever Twilight and Forks Festival in Forks, Washington.
It was crazy!
It was amazing. We had the time of our lives. Like, honestly, one of the best experiences of my entire life.
You guys have to go.
Oh my God. And we just got back the other day. We're still pretty jet lagged and pretty tired and adjusting to real life.
Yeah. We have so much to talk about that
Oh my God.
it's daunting. And
Should we tease, like, what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. That could be cool. Tease it, Mel.
Well, we're going to talk in our next episode about some of the actors that we met, the cosplayers, some urgent Robson updates that we learned.
Urgent information.
Information, some gossip about the actors and the cast.
Yep. Some funny stories.
And
Involving
things that will shock
some of the actors.
Involving what? Some of the actors?
Yeah.
Yeah. So much.
My brain is so jumbled because I'm trying to remember so many things and write it down. There's just so many memories, so many things to talk about. It was just a surreal experience. It was crazy to be in Forks and with other Twilight fans and people dressed up. And to do it justice, we're going to do a whole episode just talking about, telling our story about the festival.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Today, we're going to share some interviews with some of the cosplayers that we met there.
Because if you didn't know, at the festival, it's very unique. They have people dressed up as characters from Twilight and acting as them, like they're in character the whole time. But there's only one of them. So, there's one Bella, there's one Alice, Edward. They're all acting like they're really them. And they look spot on. And for the whole festival, they are that character, basically. And you can, go up and hang out with them or talk to them. And they will act like they are really who they're playing. It's so interesting. Because it's not like other festivals or, conventions, I think, where you'll see, a ton of people dressed as Harry Potter or something. There's only one. So,
yeah,
it's cool.
It's kind of like Disney World in a way.
Yeah.
And, they stay in character the whole time, which is, at first, is kind of hard to get used to, but they come up to you, and they ask you questions, and if you ask them questions, they respond in character like they are, really Bella, and it was so funny and so surreal.
Yeah. And they really think that they are them. We'd be like,
yeah.
Oh, Carlisle. I just made eye contact with Carlisle. Or oh, Jacob's over there. You really kind of start to think they are them in a way.
Yeah. Which I didn't think that I would feel. But when you're in that scene, in that location, it's actually a little bit overwhelming.
It is.
We were
it's
nervous.
Actually scary. I was terrified. I was so intimidated to talk to them. Remember when we saw Jacob and Bella walk off together?
Yeah.
We were
several times.
What?
They were getting way too cozy. It was very suspicious.
They were they were hugging, and Edward was just standing there like a loser.
Yeah. Or in pictures, I remember thinking wow, Edward doesn't even look like Edward. And yeah, he definitely can't compare to Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
But when I would see Bella and Edward standing next to each other, I would be like, oh my God.
I know, me too. Me too. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, just seeing
And-
them there, it was just something about it was just amazing.
Yeah.
I could just stare at that all day.
I know. It was so cool. I wish that like I could be around them all the time.
I know.
But so yeah, we had an opportunity to interview 2 of the cosplayers, and we can share those with you guys today. So our first interview was with the cosplayer who plays Alice, and her name in real life is Victoria, aka V. And so we got to sit down with her and just ask us questions that we were curious about. And
We recorded it at the event, one of the events, which was at this place called Fern Acres, and it was outdoors. It was so pretty. It looked like the Breaking Dawn wedding, actually. But there is a part where people were walking by talking in the background. There were just people at the festival. So there's a part of it where the audio is not so great. And overall, our audio might not be so great. So we apologize for that. But it was a really cool conversation. And yeah, she's a fellow Twihard Twilight fan, so she was really cool to talk to. All right.
yeah, and here it is.
Yeah, here it is.
So first, we were just hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to cosplay Alice.
Sure, my name is V. I am from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Cool.
I've been a big Twilight fan for more than 10 years, which is crazy. I started reading Twilight after a bad breakup in 2008. I just really needed something to distract myself. And a lot of people at the time were talking about Twilight online because they'd heard about casting information about the first movie. So that's when I first started hearing about it, and I thought, okay, this is clearly about to become popular. Maybe I should read the books, and I love young adult, so I was looking for something new to read at the time anyway.
Yeah.
So I went out, bought Twilight, became obsessed with it, read it in like a day, and then literally stumbled out into a snowstorm to buy New Moon and Eclipse because that was all that was out at the time. And I was like obsessed, tearing through it. And then I got all my friends to read it and joined some online communities, and they told me, well, when I was reading this, I couldn't help but picture Alice as you. So that's how the idea of cosplaying as Alice first started getting into my head.
No way.
And then when the first film came out, I was like, okay, I can kind of see it with the girl they cast. Like, we're not twins, but like with the costumes and the makeup, it's passable.
Yeah.
So that sort of sparked my interest in collecting her costumes and cosplaying as her, especially with encouragement from my friends. So that's really how it started.
What do you think, like, what about Twilight resonated with you? Why do you think that you connected to Alice?
That's a great question. I actually initially didn't connect with Alice because people kept telling me how similar we were. And because I could see that we were very similar, had similar interests, fashion, event planning, shopping, travel, all things like that. And even the way she spoke, like I felt like I really resonated with her. So I didn't click with her immediately because I was like, I know you, I'm familiar with you. I'm actually really intrigued by Edward because he was sort of more of a mystery and felt like a very complex character, and he was sexy and romantic.
So mysterious.
Right, and especially because I just came off a breakup, you
Yeah,
kind of want to
exactly.
feel like safe and loved. Like even if you're just living vicariously through someone else, you're like, okay, I didn't get this, but this character has this, and I can live through her for a little bit. And I think that's what really sucked me into Twilight was the story, the characters, the love story, the love triangle. It was also thrilling. This was before Breaking Dawn came out, so I had no idea how the series was going to end. And, you know, I'm still happy with where the story went. But, yeah, I think that's what originally pulled me into it, was just, like, so much of a love story. And it felt real.
Yeah.
I'm into other series. I love Harry Potter. You know, I love Sailor Moon. But I feel like this was the first thing I read that felt like the characters were somebody that I could be friends with, or they were living in a town or a situation that maybe I could see myself in. So
That's so true.
yeah, I think that's what really did it for me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I feel the same way. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's a fantasy, especially the first movie feels so true to life.
Exactly.
I know, it feels like it could happen to you.
Yeah, and just being here right now, it feels like the movie.
And that's really what they want. That's why they host this festival every year, because they're like, we want to make people feel like it's real. We want to give them a safe space to celebrate. 'Cause it doesn't always feel safe to be a Twilight fan.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that's so true. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, and we saw the documentary and how you guys were all talking about just the backlash that Twilight fans have received and just how strong it is and kind of unnecessarily strong.
I agree. Unnecessarily strong. Even in my personal life,
Yeah.
I mean, I met my husband we've been dating for 8 years at this point, and when he and I first started dating, his friends knew that I was a Twilight cosplayer and that I was really into Twilight, and they were like, "Are you sure you want to date her? She's a crazy Twilight fan, and she's gonna make you cosplay as Jasper." And I'm like, "Well, if you're not a crazy Twilight fan, why do you know his name?"
Yeah.
How do you know it's Jasper?
Yeah,
That's such a good point.
Yeah, so they were just, they were really warning my husband not to date me. Luckily, he didn't listen.
Oh my gosh.
But there's this stigma, right? Like, if you're a Twilight fan, you're this crazy girl. But
So
I
true.
mean, we don't judge people for being into Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever it is they like. So why can't we like Twilight?
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I thought that documentary was really cool, that the angle was kind of about that. And I think a lot of people saw that documentary and were like, wow, I never realized that we were pretty shitty to Twilight fans.
yeah,
or like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And they sort of viewed the fandom from a different light. They're like, okay, well, actually, these people really aren't that different from me.
Yeah.
They're just people who love something passionately, and it happens to be something different than what I love. So I think it turned a lot of heads that way. So I was really happy about that personally.
Yeah, definitely. We saw, so you've met Stephenie Meyer before.
Yeah.
What was that like?
She's so nice. I met her twice, once in 2013, once in 2015. 2013 was my first year here at Forever Twilight in Forks. It used to be called Stephenie Meyer Day then.
Oh, yeah.
She showed up with a couple of friends, completely surprised everyone, just
Oh my
didn't announce her visit, just literally showed up.
Oh my gosh.
She was so nice. She took the time to
people, like,
meet everyone. Oh
screaming?
my god, people were freaking
Oh
It
my
was a serious
God.
rumor. They were like, I think Stephenie Meyer's here. Like, I heard Stephenie Meyer's here, and she was. And she took the time to talk to everyone. We actually ended up on First Beach in La Push, just around a bonfire with her, just talking, making s'mores with her. She'd
Oh
never
my
had
gosh.
s'mores before. So we like made her s'mores, and she ate them, and she just told us stories. And she came with a couple of her friends, and they were all so sweet. And it was just amazing. And then again in 2015, she had a formal announcement that she'd be here. She was doing a signing event, and it was actually right after the Twilight short stories came out, the Storytellers Project, and I auditioned for a couple of those films to play Alice.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get the part in either film just for logistical purposes and things like that. But I did my own photo shoot from We've Met Before, and I gave her like a photo. I was like, I didn't get into the project, but like I just wanted to give this to you because it was like my own version of it. And she was like, when she saw it, she was like, oh my god. She's like, why didn't they cast you?
Oh
She's
my
like, you should
gosh.
have been. She's like, you look more like Alice than the girl they cast. So that was really nice, but she has always been super lovely.
Oh my gosh. Were you super nervous?
A little bit, yeah, because it feels like meeting your creator a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but she in this town and to these people is kind of a god.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I can
is
see
what
that.
it is, right? And like
Yeah.
the pandemonium that there is for like meeting the actors, like it's like 50 times that when Stephenie comes in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
have either of you met her?
No.
No, we never have.
We haven't met anybody.
Yeah, we met Eric. Yeah.
Well, this is our first time here, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing your meet and greets after this?
Yeah, I
Nice.
think so.
I think we had like a really late group.
Yeah. What was I wondering? Oh, so like, what are the biggest tips of playing Alice, or how do you embody her?
I think for me, as soon as I get the hair and the contacts and the costumes on and step out the door, I think for me, everything kind of changes. My voice changes, the way I walk changes, the way I carry myself changes. So I think it's really just about embodying the character as you know them to be. For me personally, I'm not really trying to replicate what Ashley Green did.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Everybody has their own interpretation of a character, right? For me, I think she's more pixie than I think Ashley played her.
Yeah.
So for me, I skip a lot. I throw my leg up in photos. Like, I just want to be like very dainty, and people seem to like it. And those are things that I kind of not invented, but like those are kind of aspects that I put in the character and kind of made her individual to me.
I think how the way you portray her is really how I picture her in the book.
Really?
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Like skipping all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really happy and
Have you ever met Ashley Green?
I haven't. I've spoken to her on, what was that platform called? FanMeo.
Oh, no way.
I actually talked to her twice. Once was of my own volition. I just really wanted to talk to her, get some, like face-to-face time and validation a little bit. Like she did, she was the character, or she embodied the character, and she played her on screen. And even though I don't take 100% of my cues from her, it's nice to be like, hey, I'm out here continuing your work in a different sort of way. So I just really wanted to speak to her, and she was so complimentary. I did it in cosplay because I was like, you're going to be speaking to a lot of people today. I really want to stand out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And she must have loved that.
Oh my god, when she saw me, she was like, hi! She was so like, she's an actress, so maybe she's faking it, but she seemed really happy to see me. And she actually told me, she's like, I creep on your Instagram all the time.
No way!
Yeah,
Oh my
because I
gosh.
tag her and everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm annoying like that. And she was like, so I tag her in a lot of things, and she's like, I creep your Instagram all the time, and the group that you're in, and she's like, you guys are so amazing. It took us like a whole production team to do what we did, but you guys are just out here just doing it on your own, and I think that's incredible. So yeah, she was really lovely. And the second time I spoke with her was a couple of weeks later, also on FanMeo. They wanted me to invite her to the festival on their behalf. So I got to invite her personally to come, and she actually really tried to make it, but she booked a couple of film jobs. And she's filming in New York right now, so she couldn't come, but she and her agents tried really hard, and she actually does want to come. So
Maybe next year.
Next year, that would be huge.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she actually mentioned FTF on her Instagram stories this morning.
Oh, no way.
Somebody asked her, they're like, would you ever come to Forever Twilight in Forks if you were invited? And she's like, yes, I would love to. She's like, I tried really hard, but
we figured that people are probably busy.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're always going to prioritize like a job,
career,
looking over. It's not that they don't get paid to be here; they definitely do. But it's like long term versus a weekend, you know. So
that makes sense. I was wondering, where do you guys get all the costumes?
I mean, I've been collecting Alice costumes for more than 10 years, so I've gotten them on eBay, on reselling sites like Poshmark, from private sellers. I also own a couple of Alice's costumes from the films. There was a Twilight Saga auction in 2017 and 2018, so I have 3 lots from that, including her bridesmaid dress, so it's one of a kind. I'm the only person who owns it.
Oh my gosh,
no way!
Amazing.
I know, it's crazy. So
it's one of a kind.
Literally one of a kind. And that's why I had to have it. I was like, I can buy just about anything else, right? But that I can't find anywhere, and I'm not talented enough to make it.
Yeah.
So,
do you sew?
No,
Oh.
unfortunately I don't.
No, I don't.
But I'm really good at paying other people to make things for me. So, so most of us have been like privately collecting or collecting clothing that kind of looks like, you know, inspired by the characters. Or we have a lot of friends as well who have screen-worn costumes and things like that, so they loan us the clothes if we need them kindly. Cool. I have a full wardrobe, so I typically don't take people up on that, but like Esme, Carlisle, you know, they're sourcing from places, so it's nice.
Wow, that's so cool.
Do you wear like the bridesmaid dress, or do you just keep that nice?
It's really delicate.
Yeah.
I've worn it once for a Twilight themed wedding that was here. I wore it last year because they reenacted Edward and Bella's wedding in Forks, and then
oh my gosh,
it was so beautiful. People were crying. They were like, "Oh my god,
I know.
You really should have been here." It was so nice.
We'll have to go to the next Breaking Dawn one.
Yes, please do. We'd love to see you there. And then once I wore it to my work Christmas party, and that was really scary. Feathers were coming off.
What's your work?
I work in public relations.
Oh, cool.
So I work at a PR agency in Toronto, downtown. We have... it's part of a global agency structure, so we work with some global clients. I can't say who or what the agency is, but I work in communications, making other people look good. So
cool. Speaking of costumes, what's your favorite Alice costume?
My favorite Alice costume has to be her gray dress from the first film.
I love that one.
Diane von Furstenberg dress. I just feel like it's a very iconic look. We see snippets of Alice before that, but we really are introduced to her character in that scene where Bella's meeting the Cullen family. So, I think that has to be my favorite one.
I love that. That's probably mine
we
too.
said that. We had an episode about fashion.
Yeah.
We said that. Like, that's the Alice outfit.
Alice. People, even if people aren't Twilight fans, or if they say they're not Twilight fans, they're always like, Alice.
Yeah.
It's iconic.
We have a few more rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Just a few fun ones. Do you prefer the books or the movies?
The books.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
I think so too. We just reread them and was like, oh my gosh. 'Cause
Yeah.
I hadn't read them in a while. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah. I'm not a worshiper of the actors or anything.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really about the story and the characters, and
Yeah.
not so much the people playing them.
Yeah. Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Team Edward,
I agree.
all the way.
Fans, Team Jacob listeners.
Favorite soundtrack?
Twilight.
Cool.
Yeah, gotta go OG.
Yeah.
Favorite book or movie?
Twilight and Twilight.
Well,
I'm telling you,
we
I'm OG
agree.
all the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
so are we.
I love Twilight too.
So, in one more question is, well, maybe not the my
I
last
have another
question is they changed Alice's hair
Uh-huh.
in Breaking
First
Dawn.
movie. Yeah, first movie is my favorite one, if that's
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah.
Because I like the flippy style. I think it's the most pixie-like.
Yeah.
In Breaking Dawn, I feel like she looks a little bit like a soccer mom.
Yeah.
Like it's not that she herself...
I can see that.
It's not that she herself aged. She's always beautiful.
Yeah.
But the styling
Yeah.
aged her, I think.
Yeah, a little less like eccentric. It's just because
I
we were
agree.
saying that like there's nothing crazy about
No.
having like a pixie cut. Like it's pretty
Exactly.
normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the spikes. I like that in the first film she looked more like an eclectic art student. Like
Yeah.
she was like the fun, spunky one who you'd
Totally.
see in art class or band or something. So I always liked that. Alice is a fashionista, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's dressing designer all the time. I can see her mixing designer pieces with H&M pieces or with vintage
Yeah.
pieces. She's
Oh, that's so
thrifting a lot.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
can see that, you don't have to spend $1,000 on every outfit to be fashionable. You can mix
Yeah.
and match from every place. So maybe you're wearing a Diane von Furstenberg dress, but you're mixing it with a bolero from, the 1950s or something like that,
Yeah.
and jewelry that you bought at a thrift shop. So
Yeah.
Especially
that's-
since she's been alive for a long
exactly,
time.
Yeah,
like to me that's what
exactly.
fashion is, and I think they embodied that best in the first film.
Mhm.
And in the end, it was just anthropology. Not that I don't love
I didn't even know
anthropology,
that.
but
Yeah.
like this is Michael Kors. Like most of
Yeah.
her stuff is from anthropology.
That's so
this being-
interesting.
I'm wearing the gray coat from New Moon that she wears in Volterra. So it's all very like high-end designer pieces. They had a
Cool.
bigger budget, but I think they could have leaned more into the she's the weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fashion, right?
You
Oh,
said that too,
definitely.
didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
I guess my last question, maybe just what's your favorite memory from the festival?
Oh,
Or
I
one
like
of
that.
them.
That's really hard. I think one of my favorite memories actually happened last year. Sorry, you missed it. I was actually at Edward and Bella's wedding. So it started off with the first dance between Edward and Bella, but they were really nervous, specifically her. So actually, the Cullen couples came in and kind of did synchronized dancing around them. And we didn't really
love
plan it
that,
that way, but
yeah.
it just we just all happened to be moving in motion with each other, and we were dancing around them. And as Jasper was spinning me, I could see people's faces, and they were so happy, and some people were crying, and they
Oh
were
my
just
God.
like so happy to see it. So that was such a really great memory. I think it felt really real to people
Yeah.
in that moment. So it's certainly surreal for me. So
Yeah.
that was really fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang, I'm
So happy hearing about it.
I know. It's cool. I know
It's
it's really,
true.
really awesome hearing all
Yeah.
these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
It's
definitely
like
have
we
to...
didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You should totally interview the festival directors and things like that.
We would like
Yeah,
to.
we would love
Yeah.
to.
We've been
Yeah.
having such interesting conversations with people. I'm like, I wish we recorded that.
I
Yeah, you
know.
could totally do a fandom series here or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Well, we won't keep you any longer, but
Thank
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Photo.
Yeah.
So that was our
so yeah.
interview with V.
Yes. That was a really nice interview. Unfortunately, they were taking a group picture at the time, and so we caused her to miss the group picture, which I felt
I know. I
awful
felt
about.
so bad.
Yeah, but she was so nice about it and said oh, they're just gonna Photoshop me in, which I hope is true.
Oh, that sucked. They should have waited. Also, I'm pretty sure it was scheduled for 2:30, and they took it at 2:28 or something.
Yeah.
Couldn't have waited a second.
I
Oh,
know, she was
well.
running over. She missed it by a few seconds. There was a girl
Yeah.
waiting by our podcast to tell her that they were about to take the picture, but I thought she was just a fan of the podcast and wanted to watch it.
I thought he was just a fan of Alice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just thought she wanted to see it live. I think she was a friend
Yeah,
of
she was
hers,
watching us. I
so-
thought she was just watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but V was so nice. And you guys, if you there's a documentary out there, we should share it because it's kind of hard to find, but about the festival. And as Alice, she is amazing. She's just spot on. She skips around and her little voice, and she looks just like her too. And
Oh, they used to have 2 Alices last year, but I'm happy that they only had 1 because I think that she was just amazing. I couldn't even picture a competing Alice character.
They had 2 Alices? That's weird.
Yeah, last year they did.
No, but we were saying, I think you felt this way too, Mel, that I liked her, no offense, Ashley Greene, but more than Ashley Greene as Alice.
Yeah, me too.
So small and quirky. And that's kind of what she said in the interview, what she was going for, like a little bit more eccentric.
Yeah. She's exactly how I pictured. And she just felt so genuinely compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like how she agreed with a lot of the same things that we did.
Yeah, that was cool. But she was cool to have at parties and stuff. We'll tell you guys about it next time. And the reason we're splitting it is just because we're tired from the trip and can't. This is gonna be a big episode to recall everything, so we want to give ourselves more time.
Yeah.
But at the parties and everything that we went to, she was just a great person to have there as Alice, because I mean she did a great job as Alice, and as a person, as a character, she's just so friendly and like easy to talk to. And she just did a great job being that person. And then I feel like she's like that in real life though. She's very nice and just warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the last day we got to see her really out of character and she was so cool.
Oh, she was so cool.
She had this pink hairdo and this like yellow jacket. She just was so gorgeous and so sweet. Oh my god. She really felt like a friend. Like I genuinely wish I could see her again.
I know. I wish too. Ugh. I feel that way about so many people we met that weekend. And it's like you realize, oh, I only saw them for like 3 days or something. But
I know.
feels like more. I guess that's how camp is.
Yeah. I know. It's like you were there forever.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way.
Yeah.
So then we also had the opportunity to interview the woman who plays Aro, and her name is Shandra in real life.
Mm-hmm.
She, another just amazing, amazing person. Like, we cannot say enough things. I mean, you'll hear her story and you'll learn just, like, how compassionate and caring and wonderful she is.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a pleasure to talk to her as well.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah, she plays Aro, but she's really convincing. She has the whole outfit, the hair, the sideburns, like, the whole thing. She's amazing at the voice. Being a little creepy but also charming. She's really good at it. And we're gonna share that documentary somewhere.
So, and here is the interview.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. I was wondering if you could introduce yourself to our listeners and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at the festival.
Of course. Good evening, listeners. My name is Shandra. I play Aro of the Volturi for FTF up in Forks, Washington. This year I am a part of the planning committee. There are 8 of us total. A little bit about myself is I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I am an advanced EMT. I also went to school to study mortuary science, so I trained to be a funeral director. Yeah. That one always makes people go, did I hear you right? Like,
Oh my gosh.
I used to do 911 dispatch, and I'm getting a degree in healthcare management.
Wow.
So I've been married for just over a year. No kids, but one kitty.
Cute.
I know, she's cute.
So, you play Aro.
I do.
And I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start with this one. So, we've talked about him on the show before, about how he's such an interesting villain because he isn't explicitly evil. And we were wondering what you make of his character. Do you think he has good or bad intentions?
Ooh. Aro is a very, very multi-dimensional character. And that's one of the reasons I'm really drawn to him. But something I say when I'm at the festivals, people say to their kids, like, oh, look, it's Aro. He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I always say, I'm an antagonist, not a villain. Because
That's so true.
every story has their antagonist.
That's so true.
I know it makes it, and then it makes everybody go, "Oh yeah, I guess okay." Like she's not evil, but I mean, if the story was written from the Volturi's perspective, the Cullens would be totally out of line.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy out of line. Like, who do these people think they are? Like,
Yeah.
But Aro, so it's frustrating because he doesn't have a lot that is canonically written about him. And the illustrated guide says that he was born in Greece. He was born in about 1300 BC, so he is just over 3,000 years old.
Wow. Insane.
I can't even imagine being that old.
Yeah.
Like, he's seen everything, you know, if you believe in such things, I mean, he witnessed the birth of Christ.
Yeah.
He was there for the fall of Constantinople. He was there for, you know, the rise and fall of different countries and all these wars.
Crazy.
And the colonization of, I mean, crazy stuff. But he is, interesting in the way that Michael Sheen portrays him, because Michael Sheen makes him a little bit of this, like, tortured genius a little bit.
Yeah.
Where he puts on this really cheerful, funny, happy facade. But there are moments in the movie, if you pay attention, where he'll kind of turn away from people and he has a really serious face on. And that's what clues me into the fact that, okay, he's not really crazy.
Yeah.
He's just putting on this, like...
Yeah.
He's trying to like, lull you into a sense of security, and then he'll, he's like a cuddly old grandfather.
Yeah.
Like, he's so sweet, and then he'll kill you.
Yeah.
And he'll look you in the face and say, "You're my best friend."
Yeah.
And then kill you the next day. So I think that he has a little bit of that going on. But just imagine the sheer burden of knowing everything that anyone has ever thought all the time.
That's so true.
And just for curiosity, one day I thought, I'm going to start keeping track of kind of the things that I think about. And I also do this just for, I attend, behavioral therapy, and they want me to start getting better at the way that I think. So I was keeping track of it, and I was like, it's exhausting just being me. Imagine touching a vampire who, like Edward, who's been alive for 100 years, and seeing all of his fears and thoughts and lusts and nightmares and frustrations. I mean, emotionally that would just drain you.
Yeah.
So I think that there is maybe some simmering madness in him, but I think mostly he's more composed and controlled than people like to think. Because he has the crazy laugh, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's crazy."
Yeah.
But no, I think that he's incredibly calculating. And she adds another layer of complexity with him because, I mean, he murdered his sister.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know. Okay, you guys know that. A lot of the lay people that are big, Edward Jacob fans don't know that. So when I say that, they're like, "Oh my goodness." But he totally killed his sister, and it was over a power trip. But Stephenie Meyer did mention later that he does have regret and guilt over that. So canonically, there's not a lot we know about him. And it just, I almost slammed my head into the wall when I got the illustrated guide, and I excitedly flipped open to his page, and it said "Origins Unknown." I was like, "Are you serious?"
Oh my god!
You wrote the book.
Yeah.
That's actually such a good point.
Tell me more about him.
How would she know some things and not others?
Well, he's not a Cullen, so...
Well, maybe...
But, who was supposed to have written this guide, if not... you know what I mean?
Well,
I know.
well, maybe it's he doesn't know where he comes from.
Is that possible?
Oh, that's
That
possible.
might be it.
Oh, he doesn't remember his human life?
And
Yeah.
I know, but Stephenie would... And I just...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because she knows, Alice's human backstory.
Yeah, that's
so-
true.
And she doesn't really remember...
Yeah.
She doesn't really remember her human
No.
life.
No, she
She doesn't at all. But Stephenie knows.
Yeah.
So.
I know. But that's the thing. It'd be one thing if Arrow said, "Oh, I can't, remember." But Stephenie's like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know?" But so I've had to kind of make up my own canon over the years, just because people will ask me things like, "Where were you born?" And technically, he was born when Greece was still Etruscan, before it became Greece. But that's all we know.
Yeah.
And we don't know. But in my canon, he was raised by a very, very controlling and somewhat abusive father who taught him that he needed to be better than he was. So he was constantly trying to be his best, which is why when he came into power as a vampire and he decided, I have the opportunity here to step on everyone else and be the best that I can be. Even though he never wanted to please his father. But even in those days, your position was everything.
Yeah.
Even as a
That's
peasant.
so true.
Yeah. So I just think that he would work as hard as he could to be who he could be. But past that, I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Have you ever published any fan fiction about Aro or?
Loads.
Oh, we
And
would
you
love
will
to.
never,
read it.
no, you will never find it. It's so bad. It's always so bad.
Most fan fiction is.
It's so terrible. And most of it was written,
I
as
bet
most...
it's not.
Yeah.
as all fan fiction is, it was written during some emotional times in my life, and so a lot of it's really melodramatic. And
that fits though.
it's fun. And you know what? If it works for people as an emotional brace, then that's great.
Yeah.
But mine is most of it centers around the Volturi, just because I feel like they're incredibly misconstrued. But what was one of mine? I wrote one about Arrow's childhood with Didyme. That's why I say her name, Didyme.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know how to say that, actually.
they go Didyme or Didyme. I'm like, I think it's Didyme. But just like his wife's name is Sulpicia. And so this entire weekend Friday night when I was Sulpicia, everyone was like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, Sulpicia."
Yeah.
Sulpicia. Darling. No, so my fan fiction page is quite robust. I think I've got 24, 25 works on there. But I haven't touched fan fiction in a couple of years. I just, I really, really clung to Arrow and the Volturi when I was in kind of a more tumultuous time in my life. And now that I'm out of it, I just look back on it fondly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have been asked by a couple of people to rewrite Twilight from the Volturi's perspective.
That would be so cool.
Which would be really fun, but that's such an undertaking. And
Oh, yeah.
I also don't know how... Well, it makes it hard, too, because the Volturi really... When Stephenie wrote the first Twilight book, I don't think she had the rest of the series planned.
I know.
I don't think so. I think it was very spur of the moment. Just,
I know, and she was like, oh my gosh, I've sold, however millions of copies of this book. So now she's trying to fit in these pieces that were not originally meant to be fit. Which is why I get nervous to write from the Volturi's perspective, because then I have to start carving my own pieces. And then people are going to come up and go, actually, that's not how that...
Yeah. That happens all the time with our podcast.
What do you mean? Oh,
people
make mistakes.
Yeah.
But I see, like, things would contradict the book.
Well, and I'm not cute, Stephenie, and I don't know if... I just think of it like, if she were to ever stumble across it, I don't know if she would appreciate it. So I don't know. I've been asked, though. I've thought about it.
Yeah, that would be really...
It's fun to even just think about.
I know.
Yeah, I know. This whole trip has inspired me to write fan fiction.
It usually does for me, too.
Yeah. Oh, no, so I wanted to talk about, you said that you think that the Volturi is very misconstrued. And we've talked about that a lot, because we think the Volturi does serve a purpose, which is needed within within this world. So do you think that the Volturi should be taken down by the Cullens? They start this army and then nothing really happens. Or do you think that, they are needed?
I definitely think that, and I know that we just said that they're not, but I think they're a necessary evil.
Yeah.
And I just use that phrase because it's a common colloquial phrase. But I was really irritated, actually, when I was watching the movies, and the Cullens are like, we have to get this army together to take down the Volturi.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't their intent. I know they were like, these are witnesses. Like, but I've always been Team Volturi, so I was like, who are these peasants? What are you doing? No, but on a serious note, I think that the Volturi definitely serve a purpose, but I do think that purpose has been somewhat warped through time and the lust for power.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to admit that, even though it makes me so sad. But Arrow has maybe gotten a little big for his britches. But at the same time, though, I mean, people don't know this, but Arrow, and Stephenie said this, Arrow kept an immortal child and studied it for about 10 years.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Back, I don't remember when. I think it was in the medieval times. I'm not sure. Actually, when they touched on it in the movie, I was like, oh, that's really interesting that they would give the Volturi credibility like that.
Yeah.
But he kept it and studied it for a little while, and he saw that this thing was dangerous. Like, this thing would have a temper tantrum and level a village. Yeah. So no wonder they all got their heckles up when Irina says, like, oh, there's an immortal child. They're all like, like, oh no. So I think in a way they're completely justified, but I think the idea of wanting to wipe out the Cullens because of a mistake like this is strange. But I also understand that they needed a climax for the movie. Yeah. So that's kind of... Yeah. And I know it's in the book too, but in the movie they take it so much further. Yeah. I really think that if this had occurred in a more realistic universe, I think that probably they would have asked Carlisle, Bella, Esme, and Renesmee to come to Volterra and like have like a trial or have like a hearing.
That would have been actually super interesting.
Or something like that. The only downside to that is because nothing is simple with Arrow is none of them would probably leave. Yeah. And he'd probably ask for Alice to come too.
That would have been very interesting too if Volturi kidnaps the Cullens and that's our final story.
Yeah. Like, and the wolves have to go save them.
Yeah. And then they all became Volturi in the end.
I really like that.
I know, and I mean, Arrow he would totally use Carlisle as a bargaining chip. And I think he and Carlisle have history, as most people know. I just think that he would keep him here and be like, oh, your family misses you. Well, if they come here, they can still... And poor Alice would be separated from Jasper, and I think that Alice would do whatever she would need to protect her family. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but getting them to come to Volterra would be would be hard. And you saw in the movie when they were forging passports for Renesmee and Jacob, I honestly think that they probably would have just sent off Renesmee and Jacob to hide forever.
Yeah.
They would constantly be on the run.
Yeah.
Rather than come to Volterra. So
That'd be kind of cool.
I don't know how that would have played out.
Interesting.
So many possibilities.
It could still happen. I mean, they're still there.
True. So we saw the documentary, and I think that about the festival. And I think you've talked about this. What we were wondering, because I think you talked about in that documentary you being really captivated by Michael Sheen's performance. And maybe just in case anyone listening hasn't heard that, what about his portrayal of Arrow did you really love, and what stuck with you?
Oh man. Okay. So it's a little bit of an embarrassing story. So when I was in high school, I was living with an undiagnosed disorder and a mental illness, and so I was having a really rough time all through high school, and I didn't realize that it was not normal to feel the way that I felt. I thought everybody felt that way, and I was like, man, life sucks all the time. And then and I was depressed for weeks at a time. My mother and my sister were Twilighters, and they were watching the casting of the movies. They were keeping track of all of the events, and they were excited about it. And every time they brought up Twilight, I was just like, stop talking about this book that I don't care about. Like I didn't enjoy the books. I didn't care. I didn't hate it. I just didn't connect with it. And so when they kept being like, oh, sparkly vampires, I'm like, oh my goodness. But so my mother came downstairs and actually dragged me out of my bedroom and was like, I'm gonna take you to a movie. And I said, I hope it's a good one. And it was New Moon.
Oh my gosh.
And she sat me in the movie theater, and I'm like, are you serious right now? So I took out my phone, and I was on my phone for most of the movie.
Wow.
Because I did not want to be there. And it wasn't necessarily because it was Twilight, it's just because I didn't want to be out. And then my phone died about 2/3 of the way through the movie, and so I slammed it closed and put it in my pocket, and I was kind of mad about it. And then I heard this voice, and he said, what a happy surprise. Bella is alive after all. And I looked up, and I was like, who is this person? He was just, the way that he was charismatic and enthusiastic, but he had this weird, like, air of threatening demeanor to him, and he carried this, you knew, even if you didn't know who he was, which I didn't, because I wasn't watching the movie, you could tell he was powerful, because he just walked in, everybody was kind of afraid of him, and I just hung on his every word, and I was like, please never stop talking. I love to listen to you talk, and, this was before iPhones, and so I had to wait until the end of the movie to get his name. I grabbed his name and went home and looked him up, and I just became intrigued by him as a person. And I started following his work, and I had his IMDb page bookmarked on my computer, and I would check it like every week to see if he had something new coming up. And just being excited about him and about that is what got me through some of the harder times before I got diagnosed or medicated for some of my problems. But Michael Sheen just adds this like maddening charisma to him that it's kind of there in the books, but in the books Arrow's in his early 20s, and so most adults lose that charisma the older that they get, and they become more level. But I just love that he just has this childlike wonder and glee, but he also has this dark side, and he carries the weight of the entire vampire world. He was great. But Michael Sheen is what really turned me on to him, because when I read the book, I liked the fact that there was a vampire government, but I didn't care because I didn't like the books, and I didn't really mind. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I wondered, I'm like, is this going to be? I don't know. I didn't enjoy the books that much, but it wasn't until I saw Michael Sheen play Arrow that I said, this character is interesting. Yeah. And then I went back and reread the books and went, oh, okay, that's more significant now. That's more interesting.
Did that convert you to being a Twilight fan as a whole?
It did.
Yeah.
I say, a Volturi purist. I did not get into Twilight until I discovered the Volturi, and this was like 2009, because that's when New Moon came out. Yeah. And that led me to learn more about the Volturi as a whole, and then that caused me to learn more about how the Volturi connect with the rest of the vampire world, and then that helped me to learn more about the fringe characters and how they all fit in and how they interact with each other and the history they all have with each other. And yep, it opened the door to me being a Twilighter.
Cool.
I know.
Wow.
If you told me in high school, like, Twilight's going to be a huge part of your life one day, I'd have been like, who are you?
Yeah, that's kind of like Eric's story about his mom and his sister loved it. And he was like, what is this? Like, it's crazy that life works out that way, and now we're here at a festival.
I know. It's so funny. Oh, Yeah, I actually consider him one of my favorite Twilight characters. I mean, I was definitely someone who just loved Edward, got into it that way, but I do think, like, a good antagonist or a good villain is just so fascinating. Like, sometimes they can be the most interesting people in the story. And I see that about him.
Have you ever met Michael Sheen?
No, I haven't.
No.
And you know what? I'm actually nervous to ever meet him.
I understand that.
Just because
totally.
I adore him, and I don't want to come across as weird, like, but I love you.
Yeah. That's what we've said about, like, Kristen and Rob. Like, I don't even know if I do want to meet them.
So there's a part of me that's terrified that he'll ever find my cosplay. Because he's going to be like, okay, weirdo. So
I'm
like,
sure, I'm sure someone has shown it to
I know,
him.
that's what I'm like.
It's probably someone who he knows.
Maybe.
Well, he favorited a tweet in 2014 that I was in where I was dressed as Arrow, which
No way.
was cool at the time, but it's mortifying to me now because that was the early version of that costume. It was not right. Like, and everyone says it looks so good, but I just see the cracks in that costume. I'm like,
I'm sure it looked good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so then we were wondering, when did you start coming to the festival, and how did you get involved? How did you hear about it? What's that whole story?
So, I did not know that Twilight was a huge fandom. It was just kind of something I kept private. And, a lot of my friends and family also did not like Twilight, and so I wasn't like a big Twilight or anything like that. And so I was with somebody at the time, and they said, there's a Twilight festival they do in Forks every year. We should go this year. And I was like, cool, you set it up, I'll come with you. And then they said, we should dress up. Like, that'd be kind of fun. And I've always loved dressing up.
Yeah.
And I said, oh yeah, that sounds kind of fun. And so the two of us got our costumes together, and we came up to Forks in 2014. But I'm not one to, as J.M. Barrie would put it, I don't do things by halves. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to dress up as this character, I need to embody the character.
Yeah.
So I started studying him and his, I started mimicking his body language and things like that. And so the two of us came up, and we both just kind of were crazed fans, I guess, like these crazy people. And we cosplayed, and I was contacted in 2016 by Lissy in the Chamber of Commerce, and she said, we really liked you. Would you like to come back in an official capacity? And of course I was just delighted.
Yeah.
Like, me? Like, little old me? Yeah. I'll come back, but 2014 we just came as fans.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
And this was back when it was still Stephenie Meyer Day. It wasn't Forever Twilight and Forks yet. It was just an interesting experience. And I look back on those pictures fondly because that was a great time. And look at all the many opportunities I have now.
Yeah.
Because of that time where I was like, you put this together, I'll come with you, whatever.
Yeah.
And look where I am now. So,
Wow.
That's great.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when it switched? I should know this, but when it switched from Stephenie Meyer Day to FTF?
2015.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That was the first year, and it was Twilight themed, and then they did New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn.
Yeah.
Because they were doing the 10-year anniversaries. And then this year was New Moon themed again, but that's because it's the 10th anniversary of the film.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And we haven't talked about the theming for next year, but I think we're going to try. And that's why we did the Volturi Sister Cities this year.
Yeah.
Because we really wanted it to be, because we did New Moon 2 years ago. And we have a lot of people that come repeatedly, and we didn't want it to be a carbon copy of 2 years ago. So,
Cool.
2015 is when it started. Yeah.
What was the New Moon one like 2 years ago? Like, what were the decorations or whatever?
Ooh, let me see if I can remember. It was,
It's okay if you can't.
Oh, man. That was...
Was it maybe like more wolvesy or?
Oh, it was super
Yeah.
wolfy. And it was really fun. And you know what? I have to say, the adoration for the Volturi has definitely grown since I've been here. And I don't know if I have anything to do with that strictly.
Definitely.
I bet. Yes.
But when I first got here, like, the Volturi had no representation. And, yeah, it was, because everyone was like Team Jacob, Team Edward, Team Bella, or like Team Charlie, and
Yeah.
all the events were like Edward or Jacob, like that whole thing. And then I said, well, why don't we do, that's what we did. We did a masquerade for Volterra. And I was so excited because I didn't think they were going to do anything like that. And I said, oh no, Saturday night's going to be a masquerade in Volterra. And it was really, really fun. I wore my 1790s with the frock coat and the
that's so cool.
and a cravat, and I had a mask that I made and on a stick that I made, and it was really, really fun. So, yeah, that was what. But ever since then, things have been a little more Volturi involved, and I think that's also because they have me, who kind of annoys everybody with, "Hey, we can make this Volturi if you wanted to." But it's been really fun to see how the evolution of the fans' understanding of the Volturi has changed just since they've been a little more in the forefront of things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, one of our questions was, have you met Stephenie Meyer?
I have not met Stephenie Meyer.
That's okay.
And this is a funny thing because I mentioned this in the documentary, but so I grew up in Utah, and Utah is very, very Mormon-centric.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Mormonism is a bit of a smaller community because a lot of people know each other, because we all tend to kind of live together in our own little, like, clubs, I guess.
Right.
And I babysat for Stephenie Meyer's first cousin, who was also her very good friend.
Oh, I remember you talked about that in the documentary.
Yeah, and her I won't give too much information, but her name was Melanie, and she lived 4 houses up from me, and she had 3 little kids, and I babysat for her like once a week for like a really long time.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to watch her kids grow up, and it was really, really fun. And her and my mother were also friends because they were in our church together, and they used to walk at night. And that was when she broke it to my mom. She said, my cousin's writing these vampire books.
No way.
That's so cool.
But we
That's such
had
a small world.
no idea what it would become.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, oh, that's amazing. We were like, vampires?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Like, oh, that's cool. So when I tell people that, they think that I'm vying for, like, oh, I know Stephenie, or I know. You know what? I've never met her.
Yeah.
And she's super nice. I've read some stuff from her and, like, notes, and watched a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and she's super nice, and everyone says she's super nice, but I have not met her. And the year she came in 2015, I couldn't come.
No.
I was heartbroken.
I'm sure she'll come again, and I'm sure she knows all about you and has seen all the pictures and everything.
I don't know. I'd love to talk to her about that and be like, so tell me more about Arrow.
Yeah.
If she says, I don't know.
She better come prepared.
Origins unknown. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
That's so funny. So, what is it like, hour to hour, day to day, being a cosplayer?
It requires a lot of time and a lot of patience and prep work. And not only that, but it requires a lot of love, which is something that my cute husband just doesn't quite understand. Because I really do work on it all year long. I'm doing repairs, or I'm going to build a new costume. And the one costume that I don't have of his that I'd really like to have is the flashback to the medieval sequence when they kill the immortal child.
Yeah.
And he's got that beautiful big, it's not called a necklace, I can't remember what it's called, but it's draped around his shoulders, and it's very medieval. It's very English.
I remember that.
I like it, but in order to do something like that, I have to shop for coupons for fabric, because that's going to cost crazy. I design and usually cut the fabrics myself, but I don't usually do the sewing. And that's just, my hands are too shaky, and it takes a little bit too long, and I am bad at it. I can repair anything, but I can't make, so if someone's done it once, then I can go back and fix it. But I have a cute little friend that helps me out with all of that.
Oh, nice.
I feel like I'm constantly restyling and rebuying wigs to try again. And this year I decided to reshape his sideburns, and so there's always improvements that can be made.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I don't know if you're referring to Twilight specifically or just cosplay in general.
It could be in general, yeah.
So I do a lot of charity work. I work with an organization called Millie's Princess Foundation. We are a 501c nonprofit, and we do a lot of hospital and hospice visits for little kids.
Oh.
And not only that, but I'm involved in the planning committee of our big event that we do every year called the Royal Ball. And we have kids come from Primary Children's, Huntsman Cancer Institute, St. Mark's. Last year we had, I think, 1,300 or 1,400 people show up to our event. And a lot of these kids are terminal, which means that this is the only year we're going to see them. So we work as hard as we can to make it as special as possible. So cosplay has taken over my life. If I'm not doing princess stuff, then I'm doing Arrow stuff. And if I'm not doing Arrow, then I just started doing Edith from Life and Death.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not doing Edith, then I'm doing other things. And I just got inducted into the Cosplay Hall of Fame in Salt Lake City.
No
For
way.
Utah. Yeah, in their FanX convention. I know. I was like, me? What about me?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. There are 4 of us in there.
Wow.
But now that I'm in there, things are just going to get worse, because we have to do, I say worse, busier.
Yeah.
Because I am involved in putting together service projects once every 3 months, and they're all cosplay related.
Wow.
So I have no idea what I'm going to do for my first one. But cosplay has taken over my life.
Wow.
That's just amazing that you do that. I mean, that's probably takes a lot of just, I'm sure it's emotionally hard too.
It can be. You know, when you have, and I think that's part of the reason I love this festival so much, is because I see the guests at this festival the same way I see my kids. I see those little kids as they're just excited to see you, and they want this to be a special experience, whether they know it or not. But it can be emotionally exhausting, especially when the parents will come up and start telling you their story.
Yeah.
There are things, and this is about to get really sad, so just let everybody know. Kids at the hospital will have what we call funeral parties, which is when they are about to take their child off life support. The family will get together and have like a party, and they'll invite their hospital friends and their family and their outside friends and princesses, and we all come, and we are with the kids, and we take lots of pictures, and we have a lot of fun, and then we go into the room and take them off life support.
Oh my gosh.
And it just is, it's life, like, you know, I've never seen life that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have witnessed the passing of some children, and I know, don't cry. Because I'm a sympathetic crier, so if you cry, I'm going to start crying. Okay. But it can be emotionally taxing, but that's part of my motivation to just do the best that I can.
Yeah.
And at this festival, I had two people, cry in my arms at this festival.
Aww.
Because they were so happy to be here.
Yeah.
And those moments remind me, this is why I work so hard. You know, this is why I am up at 6 a.m. and go to bed at 2 a.m. And this is why I stress over these costumes and stuff, is because it matters.
Yeah.
It matters to these people.
Yeah.
And so it matters to me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Didn't you want to ask something about Edith?
Oh, yes, on the topic. So we are fake fans of Twilight because we actually haven't read Life and Death
Okay.
yet. We will, for sure, especially for the podcast. I'm at least a little bit scared.
Well, I think that would be cool, actually, for the show to be reading it for the first time, live.
It's hard for me to wrap my brain around it. So what did you think of it? Did you like it?
You know, it's a little bizarre, but I do like it. It's different. And the foreword, so make sure you read the foreword by Stephenie Meyer, because she talks about why she wrote it.
Yeah.
And it's when you read it through that lens, then you're like, okay, this is more interesting, rather than like, okay, she flipped all the genders except Riley for no reason.
For no reason.
My favorite part, though, is when the 10th anniversary of Twilight came out. I just love that she gave us this thing that nobody asked for.
Yeah. That's what everyone's been saying.
And everyone's like, Midnight Sun, Midnight Sun, Midnight Sun. What is this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a gender bent in Twilight. And everyone's flipping through it like, thanks? Question mark. But yeah, it's a little bizarre for me. But that's just because I'm so familiar with the Cullens as they are, canonically in Twilight, and so when they start flipping the names are what got me.
It's probably
when Rosalie becomes a Royal, and Alice becomes Archie, and Carlisle becomes Corinne.
Oh my gosh, and so many characters too.
And I'm just like, you couldn't pick like, Robert.
Yeah.
Like Royal. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know. I thought that too.
So that's my weird thing. Is it's like I don't mind that the story's different, and I don't mind that because it's a cool alternate reality. But I couldn't get over the names.
Yeah.
Every time they're like, Archie called me, I'm like, oh my gosh. Archie.
It's almost like you have to think of it as a completely different story
You
in
really
itself.
do. You have to step aside and pretend that you haven't read Twilight for the first time. Because if you have, then you're trying to connect all the plot elements.
Yeah.
But don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good advice.
Just read it fresh.
That must be crazy to write too.
Cool. So, what would you? I'm sure you have a ton, but if you had to just think of one right now, what's a favorite festival memory of yours?
So I mentioned one in the documentary that was really, really touching to me. But as I've said earlier in this podcast, I had some mental illness issues that weren't taken care of, and so I suffered for a long time because of that. So I had a girl come up to me last year. She left a comment on my social media, but she came up and asked me for a picture that year. And to me, she was just any other fan. You just came up and she seemed pretty okay, and I gave her a hug and I kissed her hand and said, "My goodness, you look absolutely lovely," and gave her a twirl, and she said, "Would you take a selfie with me?" I said, "Absolutely," and we took a selfie, and then she walked away, and then on my social media she left this comment that said, "I have serious social anxiety. I came out here by myself because nobody I know likes Twilight, because I wanted to come to this festival, and I skipped the first two events because I was nervous to go, and then I came out to the dance and I met you, and you made me feel welcome and happy and cheerful," and I just thought that was so sweet.
That is so sweet.
I was like, that's so nice. But I love, love, love when people bring their kids.
Yeah.
because they're so fun to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the adults will banter back and forth with you, but the kids just think that you're the weirdest thing ever. But they're so fun to dance with, and the festival memories. I think I love the aftermath of after the festival happens, and I scroll through my social media and I see how many people have made new friends they are so close with.
Yeah, I know we've met so many people,
and it's just I'm like, that's my favorite part is that it's connecting everyone together. That's what makes me happy. So it's not a specific memory, but I like watching people connect over Twilight.
That's so sweet. I know. I feel like we've been meeting people and like really connecting, and I don't know. I'm not so great at like putting myself out there myself, and I feel like usually making friends takes some time. But I feel like this weekend has just been.
It's
so
like
crazy.
summer camp.
Yeah. Okay. Fast rapid fire questions.
Okay.
They don't have to be fast, actually. You can elaborate on them, but they're simple questions. Would you rather have a new Twilight book or movie?
Movie.
Because of Michael Sheen.
Yep.
Cool.
If they recast Arrow, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I gotta say it, Edward or Jacob.
You're gonna let me pick? Okay, and I say that because I cannot describe the depth of how much I do not care for either.
Yeah, I have to pick.
Okay.
Pick someone.
I would probably have to pick Edward, but that's because I would find Jacob's immaturity annoying after an hour.
Yeah,
we agree.
It'd be really fun for an hour, and then it's like, can you not? Like,
what is your favorite Twilight soundtrack?
I actually really like the score soundtracks better than I like the movie soundtracks.
I love those too.
I really like the score of Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Cool. Awesome. And what did I say? I can't read my own handwriting.
Oh, your favorite book in the Twilight series and your favorite movie.
Ooh, okay. I think my favorite movie is probably Breaking Dawn Part 1. I don't like Part 2 because I watched my favorite get his head pulled off. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. But favorite book, probably the first one. And that's just because I can't duplicate that feeling of wonder and that feeling of excitement after I got more into Twilight. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a second chance. And I gave it a second chance, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And I've never felt that way reading a book after that. Like a fiction book, you know. And they keep saying, like, oh my gosh, you're going to love this book. You know, it's just up your alley. It's vampires and werewolves and stuff. And I read it, and I'm like, it's not Twilight. It's not the same. It doesn't,
I totally agree.
I feel the same way.
But when I went and saw Breaking Dawn Part 2, I went to the midnight premiere. And I mean, it was just a midnight premiere, like where I lived. It wasn't like LA or anything.
We did that too.
But I actually have this terrible photo. So I started cosplaying Arrow the once before. I said I went in 2014, but I put together the worst costume of him for Breaking Dawn Part 2. So I have a recycled Welcome to the Black Parade My Chemical Romance jacket.
Oh my gosh.
Like the band stripes. And I had...
That works.
I know. And I have this cloak that I bought on eBay that is not in any way accurate to the movie. And then I decided to just tie my hair back like he does in New Moon. And I had no attention to detail. It was atrocious. But I was so excited. And I went into the movie theater and everyone was staring at me like, who is this girl who just walked in here? So the battle part starts. And
oh my gosh.
So when Arrow jumps in the air and lands and stands up and has Carlisle's head, I'll never forget the sound of everyone going, yeah. I was like, oh no. I knew this was just going to get worse. And it did, and it got so much worse. But, because Carlisle was the only reason I liked the first Twilight book before I really got into it. But then when Arrow got, beheaded.
Yes.
The audience just let out this cheer.
Oh no!
Yay, he's dead! And I just sunk into my seat.
Oh no!
And it made me so sad.
Yay, he's dead.
And it wasn't the fact that he died. It was the fact that everyone was like, yes!
Yeah.
He's dead. I was like, okay. And then when the vision came back, I was like, oh thank God. Yeah. Oh my goodness. He's and I'll never forget that sound either. When the vision snaps back and it's Arrow staring and the whole theater went, what?
Yeah.
But then after I walked out of the movie theater, everyone started to recognize who I was. Because no one pays attention to him in the trailer. They only care about the main cast. So then I walked out and everyone was like, oh, I see who you are. And then they wanted to take a bunch of pictures with me and stuff. And so...
Oh, cute.
Yep, that's the... Yeah, so the Breaking Dawn Part 2 premiere was was a little hard for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't go. So last year they screened all the movies here in Forks, and someone asked if I was going to come watch Breaking Dawn Part 2, and I'm like, if I will, I'm going to stand up and leave when the battle starts.
Yeah.
Because I take it because I love him.
Yeah.
I take it to heart. But
And
it's okay.
that's salt
I
in the
get that.
wound, too. Just everyone cheering.
I get that.
And I knew someone that loved Seth. And Seth, I think he gets crushed. I think they hug their arms around him and crush him. And I don't care for the wolves very much. In fact, that's probably my weak spot in Twilight. I felt so when Alex Mraz, cute Alex, who's so nice, came this year, I'm like, which wolf does he play? And they're Paul, and I'm like, which one is that? They're like, well, it's the one that with the dark brown coat. And I'm like, I don't know. Still don't know. Show me a picture.
Honestly, didn't we have some conversations? You were like, it's Paul. Oh, I know, Jared. No, it's Paul.
Last year, poor Quill and Embry, because in my mind they're interchangeable. Quill and Embry are. So when he came last year and he played Embry, I was almost like, hi, I'm Quillatera. To him, and then I was like, oh wait, it's not the right character. It's embarrassing. But yeah, no, Alex was super, super nice, and
it's cool. Oh, it's been so crazy meeting everybody.
I know.
I want to hear your favorite part of the festival. That's what I want to hear about.
My favorite part, I think, my favorite part is that we've been talking to so many people, and I've learned so much stuff just about the Twilight movies, about Stephenie Meyer, about Rob and Kristen, like just about all different things that like I never knew, and I feel like I was such a dummy before I came, but like we were talking to some woman who's from LA, so like she went to all this stuff, and it's just so cool. Like I never knew, and I probably was never going to know, because it's not even the things that some people know aren't written about in any articles or anything, and it's just kind of the fandom knowledge that you just have to know from meeting people or like hearing the story. So hasn't that been so cool?
Yeah, been our minds have been blown so many times.
Just some stories we've heard, I'm like, okay, that was worth the ticket price. Just like hearing that.
Just to hear that fun story. And in a way I kind of feel like I missed it a little bit, because I didn't get into Twilight until 2009, and I mean this was the Twilight lexicon was going, and Letters to Twilight was a thing, and the conventions and the premieres, and like meeting the actors and doing all these different, Confessions of a Twilight Mom, and all this stuff was going on, and I just totally missed out on it. So when I come to Forks and I meet these people that are like, oh yeah, I've been to every midnight movie premiere in LA, I've met Rob and Kristen and Taylor and done all this stuff, and I'm like, man, I am like,
I know.
We feel the same way.
Because we were like 12 at the time when it came out.
Yeah.
So
I got into it.
And then they assume that I'm on their level, so they're like, who have you met? I'm like, nobody.
Well, you've met Alex.
Yep, and the ones that have come to FTF, but I have never driven 12 hours to attend a Breaking Dawn movie premiere. Or stood out in the rain for 2 hours. I've never done anything like
I know. We could have gone to things in New York or whatever, but I don't know. I guess we were young.
I
just
didn't even know that was the thing that we could do.
I know.
I love probably how it's a safe space to love Twilight, because we have our podcast obviously, but no one in our real life is really that big into it anymore, and sometimes people kind of judge us for it. I'm still a little bit embarrassed at work to say that we were coming to a Twilight festival, because I know it's a whole conversation that I don't really want to get into at our morning meeting. These are our people, and it's been really nice. I actually love one of the big reasons we came is because of what you said in the documentary, which was just addressing, the judgment that people have about the series, and that's their loss if they don't get it, and they look down on other people who do. And that spoke to me so much. I actually cried watching it. And so I was like, we have to come here. These are our people. And it hasn't disappointed at all. It's been amazing.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
And with that thing, I was talking about this to one of the ladies that works at the chamber earlier today, but I think it's funny. So when I run into people and they see that I'm involved with Twilight, they don't usually say, oh, you're involved with Twilight. They say, is Twilight still a thing?
People say that,
Later, I'm like, yeah, man, it's kicking. It's kicking hard. But the thing about Twilight, and Lissy said this in the documentary that I really enjoyed, but she sees Twilight as a family rather than as a story, or however she phrased it. And that really resonates with me, because I see when people say oh, Twilight's so dumb, I'm like, yeah, well, some of the stuff in it is, and
Yeah.
some of the stuff you like is dumb, and whatever. But when they say Twilighters are dumb, I take personal offense.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they're talking about the people that I love.
Yeah.
And that's not okay to me.
Yeah.
So when they say, like, Twilighters are stupid, or they're just a bunch of old, overweight women, or I can't believe they're still lusting over a 17-year-old, I am just like, how's that space wizard show that you like?
Yeah.
Like, what?
So much hypocrisy.
I'm like, what? You like stupid stuff too, and I think that you should just, if it makes somebody happy, and it's not harming anyone, I think you should just let it be. And then I think of all these sweet, amazing, hardworking, humble, and like just absolutely astounding people that I've met here, and it breaks my heart when people will say like Twilighters are dumb, because I think of my cute friends like Nancy and Pam and Sherry and Lucy, and I think of all these amazing people, and I just think if you only knew how amazing these people really are, then you wouldn't be saying things like that.
Yeah.
So true.
It's just funny how I've grown that way. Because people will say Twilight's dumb, and I'm like, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because everything's kind of dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, yeah, okay.
But then when people judge people who like
when the judgment comes, or when the harsh comments come, then I'm like, oh, so, you dressed up as, people judge me for cosplay, and they'll say, you dress up, I'm like, yeah, they're like, but you don't play the character. I'm like, well, I kind of do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you dress up in a football jersey and watch football on Sunday, how's that different?
That's true.
That's so true.
And then they close their mouth like... Well, I just think it's interesting to look at the difference between Twilight and Harry Potter.
Yeah.
They're both kind of on the same plane of fandom frenzy.
Yeah.
And then you have Harry Potter that was written for children, and then Twilight that was written for young adults and teenagers.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just interesting to see just how differently those stories were each received. And they all contain a lot of the same elements.
Yeah, exactly.
There's adventure and romance and betrayal and complex relationships and surrogate parents, and all sorts of stuff that's in both books, and so it just astounds me when people love Harry Potter and hate Twilight.
Yeah,
I know.
And I'm like, you think that nerds would band together?
Yeah.
But, okay.
I love them both. I've always loved them both, and it was so annoying. I still love Harry Potter, people that like Harry Potter, but I remember, I was on Tumblr a lot back in the day, and I really got turned off from the Harry Potter fandom because of the way they hated Twilight. And I felt like I couldn't even really be part of the Harry Potter thing anymore because I loved Twilight too.
I think the bridge that crossed over that really sealed Twilight's fate is when Robert Pattinson was cast as Edward, because he was already in the Harry Potter.
Yeah, true.
I don't know how the timelines line up.
I think it was
I think he
maybe
was in,
3 years later.
Yeah, or maybe, I think maybe 4 years later. Yeah.
I can't remember, but I just remember as soon as that happened, it was the kiss of death for Twilight. And then all the Harry Potter fans came in droves. And
No, he's Cedric.
He's Cedric.
Cedric, I really like Cedric, but he wasn't even a main character.
I know,
Calm down, people.
I'm like, you know what? You all need a life.
Yeah.
All you guys. But yeah, that's. Do you guys have anything? Anything else for me?
I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
This has been an absolute pleasure, and it's been a privilege to have you both with us.
Yes.
We hope to see you again in future years.
Yeah, we want to
No,
come
we
back
hope so
next
too.
year.
Okay, so
And that was our interview.
we're back.
We're back.
So we recorded that at her Airbnb or her rental house. It's cool. It's very nice of her to have
Which
us
was
over.
So nice. And right as we rang the doorbell, she just hugged us and was so nice and so open and just willing to talk for however long, we were there. She really wasn't in any rush or anything.
Yeah. I know. I felt that. I was like, oh my God, are we taking too much time?
I know. Yeah.
Just that I thought it was so funny and sad that in Breaking Dawn Part 2 when Arrow dies and everyone was like, yay!
Yeah.
She was sad.
Oh, it's the worst thing.
I get
And
that.
after the trauma of watching your favorite character die on screen too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I think she has a lot of interesting points and just such a thoughtful lens that she sees the Twilight series through. And that's such a unique approach to it. I don't actually know that many people who are huge fans of the Volturi and have fallen in love with this series because of them. And so I think
Yeah.
that like her Twilight origin story is just so unique, and I think that like that kind of perspective gives so much more depth to the story, and you can have such thoughtful conversations about something very complex, like, is the Volturi purposeful? Are they evil?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where does Aro come from? What, who is he deep down? And I really liked what you said about him being a tortured, would you say tortured soul?
Yeah. Yeah, when you think about the Volturi more, and if the Volturi was developed a little more, it would make a much more like complex story and world.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are pretty fascinating, and it's almost like a missed opportunity, I think, that they weren't in it that much, weren't explained that much, They're just kind of like, sometimes seemed like slightly random threat, but I don't know if it's because of her. We saw her that documentary, and she was in it. Like a year ago or something, or maybe even less than that. Maybe I felt this way before, but I'll say that her love for Aro has totally rubbed off on me. I kind of think he's one of my top 5 favorite characters now. I just think he's so interesting. And a really cool antagonist. Yeah.
I agree. Especially Michael Sheen's portrayal of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But even I remember in the books, too, being like, oh, he seems nice. I think I even wrote that in my notes. And then I had to remind myself, like, oh, wait, but it's Aro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really surreal. She was actually one of the first cosplayers, I think the very first cosplayer that we met at the festival.
Yeah, the very first. Mm-hmm.
It was like very surreal. I think she touched our faces, read our stories.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
I know. And she stayed in character. Well, kind of. She broke a little bit. We were like, oh, because we didn't know. We actually asked, spoiler for our next episode, did we ask Eric? Yeah, we asked Eric Odom, who's in Breaking Dawn Part 2, if we're supposed to talk to the cosplayers, like, as if they're in character, as if we know them, as if we don't know them. Like, I was really stressed about how to approach them. You know what I mean? I didn't know if I was supposed to go up to them, to Aro, and be like, hi, Aro, or was I supposed to be like, nice to meet you, or, you know what I mean? And we went up to her, and we were like, oh, so we're Kelly and Melissa, we have the podcast. And she still acted like Aro, but was like, are we still meeting?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, and like, just stayed in character, but was talking to us about our plans and stuff, yeah.
That must have been such a challenge. Like,
I know.
They have to be quick on their feet of how they're going to react to us, but still maintain character.
I know. Let's take some skill.
But one of the cosplayers did kind of break character.
Mm-hmm. We'll
with
talk
us
about it.
pretty much right away. Try to guess who it is.
Yeah, try to guess who.
So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Those were our interviews with people inside the festival.
Yes.
And next time we'll be telling our whole experience about it.
Yes, we have so much to share. I think some of it will blow your mind, honestly. In the meantime, we're doing a giveaway. So we picked up an extra Twilight perfume when we were there, and we're giving it away to one lucky listener. So all you have to do is give us a review on Apple Podcasts or in a YouTube comments if you don't use Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And just send us like the title of the review or just something that will tell us that you left it, and then we'll enter your name and randomly select a winner and send them the fragrance.
Is there a due date for this, Mel?
And the due date is by our next episode on October 7th, 2019.
Mm-hmm. Just in case you're listening to this way after that, I'm sorry you missed it, but hopefully we'll have something else someday.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Depending on how this giveaways, I'd like to do more. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it seems fun.
I promise Yeah, and I promise I'm writing every single person's name down, and I'm going to put them all in a hat and pick just like completely randomly.
Ooh.
So enter. What do you have to lose?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we're making a video too
Yes.
about the
So
festival.
yeah, and that will come up when I finish it.
Mm-hmm. So lots of stuff, lots coming. And we hope that you enjoy it and that you find it interesting and funny, and maybe next year you'll want to go. I don't know, or maybe not. But Forks is a really cool place to go to. And if any of you guys have been before to the festival, or just to Forks in general, or to Volterra, or anything like that, like, tell us about it, because it's very interesting.
Oh yeah, or stayed in the Swan House in Oregon.
Oh yeah.
That's probably our next thing on our bucket list.
Yeah, I want to do that. Then Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville.
Phoenix.
We'll go to a batting cage. Oh wait, no, I don't think that's in Jacksonville.
I've been to a batting cage.
Yeah.
Where is there any other
should-
location they go to? Alaska.
Oh yeah, we could go to Denali.
What if we went on a trip to Alaska and people like asked like, "Oh, what brings you here?" That's our reason. Because they went there very briefly in Twilight. No, I would actually love to go to Alaska just because I would love to.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
me too.
So if you're from Alaska, please don't think that I'm knocking it. I'm not. I would love to go there someday.
Yeah, but probably not for that reason.
No, not for that reason. That'd be funny though. You'd be like a crazy Twilight fan.
What if we went on just like a around the world in 80 days trip for every single location that they go to in Breaking Dawn?
Oh,
we go to
my
Egypt.
God.
We go to
Ireland.
Where? Like Ireland.
Russia.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because it's in Breaking Dawn. Oh my god. That would be funny. That would be dedication.
I'm sure someone has.
I feel like no one has done. They went to every place. Maybe.
You never
Have
know.
you guys done that?
Maybe.
Tell us.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back really soon with all of our dirty secrets about the festival.
Yes, so much. So stay tuned.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. You can contact us at anotherbiteoftwilight@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at anotherbiteoftwilight. Theme music is by Traces. See you next time.